Unfortunately, we had some audio issues with this episode, but there's still a lot of great takeaways from Justin. So thank you so much for listening. Enjoy my conversation with Justin Rhedrick.
The only thing, the one thing that clicked off the most was just the decentralization. Because like I said in the book, it can move it really just clicked quickly, because the decentralized part of it was just moving stamps in prison. So then once we attached, so it's basically when I told Zay it's 44 cents. So it's the value going up 50 cents and it's still saying one stamp. He was yeah. I was oh shit. And so when I still had that same example and I said all right, so let's just say the canteen in prison went up in value and the guards can never take it. That's kind of how it is with me. I was golly, this could be amazing. So I just conceptualized it from because when he said it was pure freedom, I said, well, it has to survive prison then. How can it survive prison? If I put it as if it's pure freedom, then it should be able to survive prison. And I was just well, yeah, you could walk around with hardware walls in prison for years. If you know how to hide it correctly and take care of it, it's possible.
Welcome to the Progressive Bitcoiner podcast, where we explore the intersection of Bitcoin and progressive issues. I'm your host, Mark Stefani. My guest today is Justin Rhedrick, also known as Bitcoin Vegan. Justin is an author and entrepreneur in the Bitcoin space. His path to what he has achieved today was by no means straightforward. In his book, From Bars to Bitcoin, he describes how his 3 years in prison was not solely a punitive experience, but rather one that gave him the tools and mindset to do great things once he was out. And that's exactly what he has done. Thank you so much for listening. Please enjoy the episode with Justin Rhedrick. Justin, thank you so much for joining me on the Progressive Bitcoiner podcast. Happy to have you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Today's a bit of a somber day for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely a day to remember. February 18th.
Your friend Travis Moore was killed about 15 years ago. Is that correct?
Yeah.
In your book, From Bars to Bitcoin, you talk about Travis trusting you in a rather short period of time. What do you think he saw in you to allow for that trust?
Man, to this very day, I really can't say. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, of course, you can see that you're a nice guy or a good person, but I don't know. I really can't say what the defining moment was, but you tend to hear things that are important, when they matter. So I really can't say though, man. It's that deep.
In your book, you talk about relying on your instincts as a young man. How did you cultivate and fine-tune those instincts, and did they ever mislead you?
Not necessarily. I can't say they misled me because I didn't die. But after that, so I had a conversation with some of my friends who were there, and I said, how, were you changed? Did you notice something different about life? And it's yeah, they'll say, that moment changed their life forever. You don't look at the world the same. So ever since then, my instincts was what I purposely relied on. So I would see things in a whole different view. Things could slow down. I know that I try to take ever since then, I would just see the world just move at a different pace. So I don't know, it worked out to my advantage, and it made me trust that I can know what I can see.
A big chunk of your book is obviously about your time in prison, and how you ended up there is well told, described in your book, and I encourage listeners to pick it up to better understand that. But one of the most remarkable things that you say is that prison was a stepping stone. Quote, you say, "I started to think about what kind of purpose I could have in jail." Who the hell says that about jail, Justin? Why did you see it as that, and why did you not feel defeated?
I mean, like I said in the book, I always know I had a chance. Instead of looking at it terribly, it was well, most of the people who there's some great people who came out of prison. I just didn't look at all the, the negatives or, whatever people might want you to believe. It was just hey, I always bet on myself. even going to prison, it was like a bet on myself, but it was just everything has a purpose. You know, you have to find a purpose with life. And so it was rock bottom. I didn't have any other option. You know, I didn't have any other option but to find a way to find a way to win. And so at first was just how I thought about it. And it was a stepping stone because I looked at, well, come home, I still had a chance because of my instincts. You know, my instincts is what I knew I could rely on coming home.
You notice a lot of people in prison had ended up there because of the crimes that they had committed were the result of trying to get money. What were the people's reflections on that commonality?
It was just like, you know, times where like you could just tell that everyone came from a certain background, but they didn't understand why. Like it just seemed like that's how life should have been. Like the options were very small, either like go pro or sell drugs. But it really got down to like, you know, belief, like that's the belief folks cultivate. But then around you, you know, when you live in a certain view of life, you only take what's around you until you take yourself outside that spectrum. So, but everybody needed money. You know, everybody needed money. It would be nothing to see like a grown adult. You're like, man, I need $50, and they need it. Like that's it. So you end up having learned behavior, and that learned behavior picks up on, you know, whatever's around you. That's why when I really learned what learned behavior was, I purposely went to different crowds of people. And that's how it comes about. No real exposure to how to make money, you know, how to build, you know, just survive and just survive, like no living. So after a while, you know, you just start thinking like, damn, I need to do what everyone else around me is doing to get money or whatever's going to pay. And that turns into a whole situation of whatever comes from, you know. But then also that's how our environment is. Like America itself is built like that. Like that's what this country is built on. You know, straight up violence. And that's America. So it's only right that the people in general learn the model from the person who creates the model.
When you get out of prison and experience something that I'm sure everyone else with a record does, and that's no one will hire you, you had to have known that that was coming going into it. Yet you decide to, as you say, create your own economy rather quickly. Was there any hesitation in doing that, or were you still hoping to find a career?
And look, not I wasn't even looking for the only career I was looking for was like something like Bitcoin. It wasn't necessarily a career. It was like a shift. I wanted to be a part of a shift. But I didn't know that's what I wanted to be a part of. And so what came with that was finding out that I was part of something very early. So when I even had jobs, like I didn't really understand how to. The first thing, like I said, the first thing I was doing was cooking food, and that was just like that was tremendously hard. Like for just someone to say, "Hey, I'm gonna become an entrepreneur by cooking and delivering food." Like I was not really committed to that, but you know, it was an introduction, and like I didn't even understand how to like you know write down profit or loss. I just knew I needed to learn how to generate some money. Like I just had a real bad cycle and flow of money. And in my idea, it was just like, you know, you get started, you'll find out more as you go. But the only thing you can do is just get started and bump your head. So
That survival instinct kicks in again.
I realized it's all about your will to win. If you don't have the will to win, you will be you won't survive.
So you're a boxer. So my next question, I'm gonna draw on some boxing history here. Cus D'Amato, Tyson's coach, said about Tyson, if he remains committed, dedicated, and interested, and without any distractions, he can be the greatest heavyweight champion of all time. And Tyson himself said that when he got into the ring, everything he did was a desire to not go back to the life that he once knew. You talk about other inmates saying, I went back. I went back. I went back to the neighborhood that I was in before. I went back to the habits that I was in before, the friends that I was in before, and I ended up in prison again. And you, Justin, went back briefly. How did you pull yourself out of that?
Well, really, like I learned a lot of what to do by learning what not to do. So when I would hear those statements and I would see it play out in real life, I'd be like, this is my cue to go. Like this isn't really ending down. I can see this path playing out, and this won't be leading much to anywhere. Um, and then I always remember like freedom was all I ever wanted to have. So nothing was worth my freedom. Nothing was worth me being able to, create. Nothing was worth me coming back to an environment where, nothing was worth going back to prison.
Right.
Like nothing was worth going back to prison. It wasn't like I'd rather sleep under a bridge and do this shit again. Cold night, bro. Like it's not worth. It was never worth it in my eyes. So that was just some place like I would never. Like there is no way. There's no possible way. Like I would just throw that all away. It was just something that wasn't even on the menu to do. So, and I heard it so much. You let the surroundings control you. Like if you don't really step in between that automatic monotony of your life or your day and just be like, you know what? Fuck this. No, like something has to stop.
You saw prison as a springboard. You gained tools and a mindset to try to accomplish what you have today. Do you ever think about how your life might be different had you not been in prison?
Yeah, it might be, hell, to be honest, it might. I don't know. It could be worse. You start indulging yourself in activities that just goes more and more in that circle of a trap. Or, I probably would have never really cared about Bitcoin. So I try to only look at it as like it had to happen. It just had to happen.
Your book, From Bars to Bitcoin, is built around the main idea of the orca as an apex predator. Tell us more about why the orca is the apex predator.
Well, I mean, it's hilarious because they're highly intelligent. They work in pods. They have the highest hunting skills. They communicate. Like when I was even watching it, like I said in the book on National Geographic and YouTube, the most puzzling fact was the fact that like they're not talked about much, like at all. You only see them at SeaWorld. They only paint the most delicate light of them on TV and National Geographic. But these animals are a whole lot out here killing all the sharks in the water, like with precision. So like that's apex to me. It was just like wow, like, and you know not to hunt humans. Like not to hunt humans. Like they don't have one on record, so it stands a high chance that they know not to hunt humans. So to have that type of intelligence, they really are kind of the number one animal on the planet, because if we all get flooded, guess what? We can't swim with them.
One of the interesting points that you bring up is that orcas have been known to save humans when they're otherwise faced with other predators in the ocean. So if you are the apex predator, like the orca, do you feel like you have an obligation to defend the defenseless as well?
I say like this, the obligation is to provide the knowledge to where those quote unquote defenders can pick up the pieces to do so. And to be honest, if someone doesn't want to defend themselves like that, you can't take responsibility for them, because you'll then be enabling them. And I much rather someone, pick up, just say, hell, to hell with it, we're going to get it, throwing caution to the wind and going for it. Like you have to swing back on life if you want someone to help. You have to be, you can also be walking in the total wrong direction. For me, it took me a while to really understand parts of sales, right? Still learning to this day. But someone said, hey, you know what? You have the dedication and the will to make whatever, you're mentored on or taught, make someone feel like it's worth it. So when you're even, like I said, if you are willing to fight for your life, somebody will come in there. They was like, it just won't stay that way forever. So in that regard, yeah. But to just, all out, put my neck and life and energy on line for someone who will not, it just won't be. purposeful.
I suppose we should talk a little bit about Bitcoin. A friend told you about it in 2016. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Did it immediately resonate with you?
When he like really broke it down, yeah, it did. It clicked off. And that's not the prerequisite to be a hardcore Bitcoin about. I just don't want nobody who's listening to think, damn, if I don't get it right away, I'm not gonna be a real Bitcoin. Like, nah, that's not it. But it did. The only thing, like the one thing that clicked off the most was just like the decentralization. Because like I said in the book, it can move like it. It really just clicked like quickly because the decentralized part of it was just like moving stamps in prison. So then once we attached, like, so it's like basically when I told Zay it's like 44 cents. So it's like the value going up like 50 cents and it's still saying one stamp. He was like, yeah. I was like, oh shit. And so when I still had that same example and I said like, all right, so let's just say the canteen in prison went up in value and the guards can never take it. That's kind of like how it is with me. I was like, golly, this could be amazing. So like I just conceptualized it from like, cause when he said it was pure freedom, I said, well, it has to survive prison then. How can it survive prison? Like if I put it as if it's pure freedom, then it should be able to survive prison. And I was just like, well, yeah, like you could walk around with hardware walls in prison for years. If you know how to hide it correctly and take care of it, it's possible.
So your experience in prison definitely changed your perspective on the importance of Bitcoin. Is that right?
Oh yeah, and also removed the fear.
Interesting. How's that?
People would say, well, you could lose a lot of money. I lost a lot of time, so we can handle the loss of money. You know, it was opportunity. Nobody was like going to stop you. Nobody was stopping you. Nobody knew enough to how to stop you either. So no one could be over you. You know, it's 100% your responsibility to learn, to do, to act, to contribute, to add value.
So speaking of not wanting you to invest in something and telling you that you should not learn about something, the recent Economist article that once again makes the claim that Bitcoin is solely used for white supremacists and the alt-right. So setting aside the fact that the data does not demonstrate that, what really is frustrating is to see that once again, this paternalistic nature of the Economist and other pundits saying what Justin Rhedrick should be doing with his time, what Justin Rhedrick should be doing with his money, his investments, and that, moreover, what you want to do is not good enough, and it's in fact enabling the very people that want to suppress you. How do articles like this resonate with you as a member of the Black community?
Well, you know, to be honest, man, it really just makes me want to think, how the hell do I get on The Economist? It's a played out metric, in my opinion. And the reason being, like, yeah, the alt-right use Bitcoin. They've also been using the US dollar. Like, we've always been using the same money. And those are the type of things that get to me the most. It's just like, I just look at people who will like continuously fall for the same type of like jargon. It's like, we have to, it really shows you the power of media. It shows you that. It shows you the power of media, because some people will just go off of that veil right there and leave it alone. That's it. And so it shows you the power of media. It shows you the power of headlines, and control. Because now sometimes you can see that it's just like, all right, let's place this right here at this time. Let's place this here. Let's keep the divide visible. There's always going to be a divide, period. There's always going to be a divide. That's not even in question. But it's how are we going to place the barrier there, and then people run with it. So it's just like when people really just fall back a bit, tone down on the headlines, and take a minute to think, like, we've always been using the same money. And then once you take it to that level, you can see like this is some type of mass media situation. But for it to be told, like, you know, this is what you should do with your money, or, you know, you should go this way. again, it's like when it gets down to that level, it's like, damn, like, that's how you can keep someone in a box. It's almost like how you do how they do cattle. They just like shift them towards a way or however they want. That can happen. Of course, it's not going to be 100%, but it can just be just enough to make a difference.
So the author of this article, if she's sitting in front of you, what would you want to tell her?
Great article. When can we connect for a follow-up for how Black America views the alt-right and Bitcoin? So you can have both sides and make a decent conversation out of it. Here's my email. That's all I would say.
That's an Orca move. I love it. So you've written a book. You've done several entrepreneurial efforts. What are your goals for working in the Bitcoin space moving forward?
I have like a lot of neat little ideas with the Bitcoin space. One is a project Zay and I are putting together with his Bitcoin Academy in Miami, where I'm planning to educate returning citizens on Bitcoin, the host of jobs, freelance work, entrepreneurship, us combining with other companies, partnering with other companies, open to sponsorships as well. But the idea of that is to, add workers, like not just workers like for companies, but add value to the network, because you have a situation where like in America, it seems like the whole country's under attack. Nobody wants to work. There's a group of people that will work, but like you have to kind of flip the switch on some things if you want to hire them. And so in my idea is like you introduce that idea and concept and reality of Bitcoin, and you allow the time to, you allow the course to run its time, you'll find more unicorns out there who will just come out of prison and see the value. And then that just adds robustness to the network. I want to put together like a training solution, because as I go around in different aspects of Bitcoin, like there's always something to add to like a business model or, industry, whether that's like some type of leadership training or, something, because I put out a notion on Twitter, like what do CEOs look for in project managers in Bitcoin? Corey Swan responded, a maniacal obsession of Bitcoin. Lamar Wilson said, something about organizational drive, knowing how to solve problems on the fly. Jonathan Chester, Bitwage, he commented on it as well. This guy, Neil Galloway from Compass Mind, they all had pretty much the same language. And when you look on the crypto job boards, it's just like all of those positions out there need to be filled. But you still need people who understand Bitcoin before they take those jobs. So how could I add value to that and then, not facilitate, but help people get employment in Bitcoin?
Do you foresee ever going back to prisons to educate the prisoners there on site?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've tried. I tried with several states, but they had change of governors, and it wasn't really in line with where they wanted. But that's definitely on the menu. If any of your listeners out there, have any access or support, want to lend support, we could definitely discuss. But yeah, that's on the menu. Definitely to do that intercept before you get out, because now you can go out with a thought like, I know where to go, as opposed to getting out. It's different when someone can actually meet you before you get out, because then you can't really ignore the fact that you weren't told this, as opposed to getting out, wandering around for eons and then finding. So it's just as simple as intercepting, returning citizens, and then giving an easier access of thought to freedom.
My last question, Justin, is what gives you hope?
People. I don't know what part, but I think the will of people, innovation. People always want the demand, the growth. Bitcoin for sure. But to be honest, like disruption. I like disruption. Anything about it. Because it's going to bring a different change. Like, in my opinion, this next decade, is going to be crazy. Things are just going to change over. It's going to be a lot of fast moving stuff with the tech, Bitcoin, with whatever. And just got to buckle up and be ready because it's about, in my opinion, it's going to get wild. But that's what gives me hope. Just the future.
I love it. Well, tell the listeners where they can find you.
So if you're on Twitter, Bitcoin Vegan, Instagram, Bitcoin Vegan Justin. If you're on Clubhouse, follow Black Bitcoin Billionaires. I'll be in there often. I'm on LinkedIn as Justin Rhedrick, and on YouTube as Justin Rhedrick.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was a true pleasure speaking with you, and I wish you all the best.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.